Hello YouTube, it's the American History here back into the video. And tonight we will be continuing the USS Arizona series, starting with her role in the 1930s. Where we just left off, the Arizona had very recently just been modernized. So now we're going to see her role in the 1930s through Pearl Harbor and then afterwards as a memorial. So, let's begin. On the 19th of March 1931, even before the Arizona was put through post-modernization sea trials, she hosted President Herbert Hoover for a brief vacation in the Caribbean. The president visited Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. Returning on March the 29th, Arizona conducted her sea trials at Rockland, Maine, and had another catapult fitted on top of turret number 3. So when I said about the turret, the catapult I was talking about earlier, I was talking about the one down here. The turret number 3 was just added up recently up here. Before she was transferred to the West Coast in August of her sister ship Pennsylvania. In February of 1932, the ship participated in Grand Joint Exercise No. 4, in which carrier aircraft successfully attacked Pearl Harbor on Sunday morning, February 7th. After returning to the West Coast from Fleet Problem 14 in 1933, the ship was anchored in San Pedro when an earthquake struck nearby Long Beach, California on March the 10th. Sailors from the ship joined the relief efforts, providing food, treating the injured, and providing security from looters. In early 1934, the ship and her crew were filmed for the James Cagney and Warner Brothers film Here Comes the Navy, which made extensive use of exterior footage as well as onboard location shots. In the early morning of July 26, Arizona collided with a fishing trawler, the Umatilla, that was undertowed by another trawler off Cape Flattery. 2 men aboard Umatilla were killed in the collision, and the Navy convened a court of inquiry to investigate the incident. The court recommended the ship's captain, Captain McGillivray Milne, be court-martialed. This took place at Guantanamo Bay Naval Base, Cuba, while the ship was participating in that year's fleet problem off the East Coast. Milne was judged guilty and replaced several months later by Captain George Baum after the ship returned to the West Coast. In the meantime, Rear Admiral Samuel W. Bryant assumed command of Battleship Division 2 on September 4th for Arizona as his flagship. Rear Admiral George T. Pettengill relieved Bryant on March 4, 1935, and the ship participated in Fleet Problem 16 2 months later. Arizona made a port visit to Balboa in May 1936 during Fleet Problem 17. On June 8th, Captain George A. Alexander relieved Baum as captain, and 15 days later, Rear Admiral Claude C. Block relieved Pettengill. During gunnery practice on July 24th, the combustion gases from one gun of turret number 2, being the gun up here, entered the gun turret, burning 1 crewman. The turret's sprinkling system was turned on to prevent any powder explosion, but the released water leaked into the turret's electrical switchboard and started a small fire that was easily put out. Due to the Navy's limited budget, the ship spent most of this period in port as a fuel-saving measure. In the fiscal year of 1936 and 1937, the ship was anchored for 267 days. The following year it was in port for 255 days. The ship spent the rest of her career based on the West Coast or in Hawaii. On January 2, 1937, Rear Admiral John Greenslade assumed command of Battleship Division 2 from Block and transferred his flag to the battleship Maryland on April 13th. Rear Admiral Manly H. Simmons, commander of Battleship Division 1, transferred his flag to Arizona on August 7th. He was relieved by Rear Admiral Adolphus E. Watson on November 8th. Captain Alfred Windsor Brown relieved Baum on December 11th. The ship participated in Fleet Problem 19 off Hawaii in May of 1938. Captain Brown died in his sleep on September 7th, and Captain Isaac C. Kidd assumed command of the ship on September 17, 1938. That same day, Rear Admiral Chester Nimitz assumed command of Battleship Division 1. Nimitz was relieved on May 27, 1939 by Rear Admiral Russell Wilson, and Captain Harold C. Train assumed command of the Arizona on February 5, 1940. So after all those command changes, we go to her final fleet problem. Arizona's final fleet problem was off Hawaii in April through May of 1940. At its conclusion, the United States Pacific Fleet was retained in Hawaiian waters based at Pearl Harbor to deter the Japanese from war. She was overhauled at the Puget Sound Navy Yard in Bremerton, Washington from October of 1940 to January of 1941. During this refit, the foundation for a search radar was added atop her foremast, her anti-aircraft directors were upgraded, and a platform for 4 water-cooled 50 caliber inch M2 Browning machine guns was installed at the very top of her mainmast. Her last flag change of command occurred on January 23, 1941, when Wilson was relieved by Isaac Kidd, by that time a Rear Admiral. Captain Franklin Van Valkenburg relieved Train on February 5, 1941. On October 22, 1941, during an exercise taking place in heavy fog, the ship was hit by the bow The ship was hit in the bow by the Oklahoma. Arizona had been scheduled to depart for Bremerton Navy Yard in November to undergo an overhaul. The accident instead required her to be dry docked at Pearl Harbor for repairs for the collision damage she had sustained. As a result, she remained in Hawaii, and the ship's last sortie was a night fire exercise on the night of December the 4th, 3 days before Pearl Harbor, as part of Battleship Division 1 alongside Nevada and Oklahoma. All three ships moored at the quays along Battleship Row at Ford Island on the following day. On December the 6th, a repair ship Vestal came alongside to assist the ship's crew with minor repairs. Vestal was still in the day of Pearl Harbor on December the 7th, when this took place. Shortly before 8 o'clock local time on December the 7th, 1941, Japanese aircraft from 6 aircraft carriers struck the Pacific Fleet as it lay in port at Pearl Harbor, and wreaked devastation on the warships and installations defending Hawaii. On board Arizona, the ship's air raid alarm went off at about 7:55, and the ship went to general quarters soon after. Shortly after 8:10, Nakajima B-5 and 2 Kate torpedo bombers, 5 each from the carriers Kagu and Hiru, attacked Arizona. All of the aircraft were carrying 41-centimeter armor-piercing shells that were modified into 797-kilogram bombs. Flying at an estimated altitude of 9,800 feet, Kaga's aircraft bombed Arizona from the midships to stern. Soon after, Hiru's bombers hit the bow area. Those bombs were not responsible for this, at least not immediately. The aircraft scored 4 hits and near 3 misses on and around Arizona. The near miss is off the port bow is thought to have caused observers to believe that she had been torpedoed, although no torpedo damage has ever been found on her wreck. The sternmost bomb ricocheted off the face of turret number 4 and penetrated the deck to detonate in the captain's pantry, which caused a small fire. The next forwardmost hit was near the port edge of the ship, abreast the main mast, probably detonating in the area of the anti-torpedo bulkhead. The next bomb struck near the port rear 5-inch anti-aircraft gun. The last bomb that hit the Arizona hit at 8:06 in the vicinity of turret 2, likely penetrating the armored deck near the magazines located in the forward section of the ship. While not enough of the ship is intact to judge its exact location, its effects are indisputable. About 7 seconds after the hit, the forward magazines detonated in a cataclysmic explosion, which of course caused this, mostly venting through the sides of the ship and destroying much of the interior structure of the forward part of the ship. This caused the forward turrets and conning tower, shown here, to collapse downward some 25-30 feet and pancake everything below it. And actually, the foremast and funnel collapsed forward as well, which effectively tore the entire ship in half. The explosion touched off fierce fires that burned for 2 days, which you can see here, because the Arizona had been refueled the day before. However, so its bunkers were almost completely full of fuel, so she was basically a burning wreck. And the debris from the explosion showered down on Ford Island in the vicinity. The blast from this explosion also put out fires on the repair ship Vestal, which was moored alongside her, as in the shockwave was so strong it was enough wind to blow out a fire. The bombs and subsequent explosion killed 1,177 of the 1,512 crewmen on board at the time, which are approximately half the lives lost in Pearl Harbor. 2 competing hypotheses have arisen about the cause of the explosion. The first is that the bomb detonated in or around the black powder magazine used for the ship's saluting guns and catapult charges. This would have detonated first and then ignited the smokeless powder magazines, which were used for the ship's main armament. A 1944 Navy Bureau of Ships report suggests that a hatch leading to the black powder magazine was left open, possibly with flammable materials stuck nearby. And the Naval History and Heritage Command explained that black powder might have been stockpiled outside the armor magazine. The alternative explanation is that the bomb penetrated the armored decks and detonated directly inside one of the starboard magazines for the main armament, but smokeless powder is relatively difficult to detonate. Thus, the 14-inch powder bags required a black powder pad to ignite the powder. The time elapsed in the bomb hit the magazine explosion was shorter than the experience suggested burning smokeless powder required to explode. It seems unlikely that a definitive answer to this question will ever be found, as surviving physical evidence is insufficient to determine the cause of the actual magazine explosion, as there's nothing left of that part of the ship. After the attack, several sailors received medals for their conduct and actions under fire. Lieutenant Commander Samuel G. Fuqua, the ship's damage control officer, earned the Medal of Honor for his cool headedness while quelling fires and getting survivors off the wrecked battleship. Posthumous awards of the Medal of Honor also went to 2 high-ranking officers who were on board the battleship when it was destroyed. Rear Admiral Kidd, the first flag officer killed in the Pacific War, and Captain Van Valkenburg, who reached the bridge and was attempting to defend his ship when the bomb that hit the onboard ammunition magazines destroyed it. Arizona was awarded 1 battle star for her service in World War II. So, that's the story of Arizona and Pearl Harbor. And I think I'm just going to wrap it up here, and then we will conclude the series with part 3, talking about its salvage and the memorial status it has today. Hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe, please. And I even have a new Discord server if you'd like to join that. Links in the community tab. See you guys in the next one. Bye.